This is Aaron, and I am here with my longtime friend and client, John Luca. And John is in the middle of a 13-day.
I'm on the 13th day of a water fast.
And so I thought it would be cool for everyone to hear John's story and for him to give you some insight as to why he is doing such a long water fast. So go ahead, John. What do you...
Well, for quite a while now, I've been dealing with an autoimmune condition, and it's kind of put a lot of struggles in my life, and I've tried really everything else to try to deal with it, except for taking these serious medications that doctors seem to want to put you on. And I realized over time that when I restricted calories is when I started to feel better. And then when I would go back into eating, I would not feel well again. So a light dawned on me in talking to Aaron and his counsel that why not try a water fast to see if I can pull some of the toxins from my body that have been with me for a long time to help me to get this condition under control.
Cool. Yeah. And so how long have you been dealing with your autoimmune condition?
Well, since 2007 is when my body first got attacked. I have a condition called sarcoidosis, by the way, that can affect, it's a multi-system disorder, can affect any organ in the body. Mine is affecting my muscles and my joints mainly, and seems to be also affecting my nervous system.
Cool. And so, just so everyone knows, during this process, you are taking a leave from work because this would be a very difficult thing to do if you were still working, right?
Yes, yeah. I am on medical leave, and I am under doctor's care, and I'm on the medical treadmill again to try to figure out what's causing my symptoms to seem to progress. And in the meantime, I'm trying to do what I can holistically to try to get myself better.
Cool. And so, let's give them, because how long have we been working on your diet? How many years now has it been?
I would say at least 3 years.
Cool. And so prior to that, how were you eating?
Well, I mean, for most of my life, I went through life like I was invincible, ate pretty much whatever I wanted, and drank alcohol as much as I wanted, it wasn't until I got with Aaron that I started to realize, hey, there's a different way to go through life. Most of my life I weighed about 230 pounds, and after doing some intermittent fasting leading up to this and getting on a ketogenic diet, I've gone from 230 pounds to around 180 pounds. And now, on my 13th day of my fast, I'm at about 165 pounds this morning.
Wow. And which is what you weighed in?
11th grade.
11th grade. Yeah. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know, John and I worked at the fire department together. I am no longer working at the fire department, but John is on a leave of absence. And so that's how we met each other. And so originally, when John came to me, the first diet that we tried was going fruitarian. That was first, right? Yes. And so just kind of describe your experience with that, and then we'll give them the lead up to how we got here. So
well, the fruitarian diet was good for me for a while. It helped get things moving. It helped definitely get the bowels moving and started getting me heading in the right direction. But I didn't think in the end that it was accomplishing everything that I needed to accomplish. My symptoms, continued, to hamper me on a daily basis. So we tried that for a while, and I think then we moved on to...
Yeah. At the time, I was fruitarian as well, and John and I were both kind of using ourselves as guinea pigs. I had an autoimmune condition too, with psoriasis and eczema on my hands, and so I think what we found was it just wasn't sustainable long term, in terms of we couldn't eat that way forever. I think we both got better initially, and it certainly does produce a detox effect, but I think the high amount of sugar was probably stopping us from getting as far as we should have. So from there, we kind of transitioned out of that. We were both still vegan, eating a plant-based diet, and then that's when we started doing a higher fat approach, and we switched over to. We weren't truly keto. We were. I didn't have you truly doing ketogenic for probably another year or so after that,
At least,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
year and a half.
So you were eating, what were you like?
I was juicing, doing a lot of juicing, mainly green juices, things like that. Cleaning up the diet. But I was still on my side of the equation. I was still eating, a lot of animal products and things like that. So I think it was a cleaner way of living. But it wasn't until about 6 or 9 months ago that we started getting into some of the intermittent fasting and closing that eating window to about 6 hours a day, and then eventually doing some 24-hour fasting.
Right. And so that's what, I had done intermittent fasting for years, and I enjoyed it. But what we noticed with John was every time he went into even a 12 or 16-hour fast, he would tell me he felt better. And so then the question became, even if it was a vegan, plant-based, he was eating really, really healthy foods, it seemed to make your symptoms worse. And so that's when we came to the conclusion, let's try some longer fast. And so in order to make that a little more doable, that's when we switched to the higher fat approach, because the key with getting efficient with fasting is you have to start slowly getting yourself off of running off of blood sugar and teach your body how to run off its own body fat. And so, I don't know, what did we do, 6 months, 3 months ketogenic, something along those lines?
Yes. Yeah. Leading up to this water fast, I think about 9 months of ketogenic diet. Also about 9 months ago, I completely gave up alcohol. I removed alcohol from my life and just really started cleaning up my health to try to make myself better. And I think I've gotten to the point now where I realized that I needed to do something like this to try to get this condition under control.
Sure. And so, yeah, like you said, walk them through your process of how you introduced intermittent fasting, and then how we started going from 24 to 48 to 72 and extending it. So
yeah, I started with intermittent fasting, where my eating window was between noon and 6 o'clock. So I wouldn't eat anything before, anything after, except for liquid. I was having bulletproof coffee in the morning. And then I closed that window. I did that for about 6 months. Then for about 3 or 4 weeks, we did some 24-hour fasts where we were eating once a day. I did that leading up to this. And then prior to doing the water fast, I did a lot of juicing, and I really slowed my system down prior to getting into the water fasting. So the transition into the water fast really wasn't that difficult for me. In the first 72 hours was challenging. I felt like my head was, tightening. And then on the 4th day, I just felt relief, and I was on my way, and I haven't been hungry since. Actually, there hasn't been one time where I've been hungry that I wanted to eat food. Now the question is, when do I plan on breaking the fast? And I don't know the answer to that. I plan on taking this one day at a time and listening to my body. When my body tells me that it needs to eat, I will feed my body. I don't plan on taking this to a point where I could cause more damage to myself.
Right. And so, yeah, and how much weight have you lost during the actual fast?
About 10 or 12 pounds.
Right. Which, it really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things in terms of, someone not eating for 13 days. I think what John has found and what I've found is the key is you have to become fat adapted first. And that's why when he says he's not hungry, that's because his body was prepared for this by leading into it with the ketogenic diet and the intermittent fasting. If you tried to go right into fasting without doing those preliminary steps, I think you would find it to be a very painful process for the most part, so...
Prior to the fast, we've eliminated all sugars or anything that converts to sugar, any processed foods. and that has helped tremendously.
Yeah.
And went to a high healthy fat diet with limited protein and almost no carbohydrates.
Right. And so, yeah, so you almost have to break the sugar addiction first, then you can go into the fasting. I think one thing that needs to be made clear too is the difference between a caloric restriction diet and actual fasting, because oftentimes if you eat just a little bit, you'll actually get more hungry than when you don't eat at all. And if you could kind of describe that, how that works, because if you were to eat now, you would probably reset your hunger hormones and become hungry again, right?
Sure.
So,
Well, essentially, you're not having any fluctuations in your insulin at all. There is no insulin spikes or drops in insulin that are, causing your body to ask it to feed me,
yeah,
essentially. And I think what's happening is that my body just feels really rested and relaxed right now. So I think it's doing a lot of the cleaning the house cleaning, if you will, that is needed to happen for a long time.
yeah. And so I think it would be, so John and I, we were playing with the intermittent fasting, but you were also having some issues with your blood glucose levels were kind of high for a while, right? And
Yeah.
so that's when I was like, well, let's give a little bit of a longer fast a try. And so tell them how that worked for you.
Sure, it wasn't, but in a few days, my fasting glucose went from 110, which has been around 110 for many years now, and my fasting glucose went down to 79. My resting heart rate went from 76 to 60. So some of these marked differences really made me open up my eyes and say, wow, we're really onto something here.
Yeah. And that was after 3 days?
Yes.
Was that 3 day? Yeah, 3 day fast. So,
Well, the heart rate took a while to change over time, but the fasting glucose came down almost immediately.
right. And so the interesting part about that is that was after many years of following a healthy diet. He had already gone ketogenic, but it still wasn't quite enough to bring the blood sugar down into what would be considered a normal range. And so, yeah, I think we were both surprised by that. I mean,
Yes.
that was pretty awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like you said, how how are you going to gauge when it's time to end the fast? What is your
Well, I plan on ending the fast when my body says that it needs to be fed. When I get any type of hunger signals, I don't plan on going into starvation mode. I don't plan on, like I said, causing more harm than good. I'm hoping to go somewhere between 21 and 30 days is the goal. I'm on day 13. Everything seems to be going well. I'm functioning normally and my day goes normal. Most of my day is trying to take care of myself and just get myself healthy.
Right. Yeah, so we wanted to make this video not necessarily as a advertisement for water fasting, but just to show that if you follow a systematic process and you do things in a smart way, even if you start introducing intermittent fasting, pretty much everything is doable, but you have to do it in a way to where you're setting yourself up for success, and that means following certain procedures and protocols. And then after that, I think you'll find not only does the fasting work really well, but you feel fantastic when you're doing it. So, yeah. All right, guys. So if you have any questions or comments, comment below. And John is in the group as well, and he will answer whatever questions you have too. And we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Yeah.